As long as you're in sales, you will be handling objections. You have heard the phrase that selling starts with no. Of course, the best way to handle any objection is to address them head on, before the customer brings them up. You will get them, and you want to be able to handle them gracefully and quickly to the customer's satisfaction. Avoiding or ignoring objections does not work. We have a 4-step process that allows you to systematically handle any objection. We recommend you learn and practice this system. I promise it will save you from the emotional roller coaster that objections are intended to provoke. Before we get into the 4-step process, consider how you react when you hear an objection. You are too expensive. TV doesn't work. I don't watch TV. Our natural instinct is to respond immediately with facts to ensure the listener will abandon this way of thinking. We want to justify our expense or give an example of how TV does work. What we know for sure is that this tactic does not work. Why? Most objections come from an emotional base, and many are based in misunderstanding. It's important to handle the human side of this objection before addressing the facts. If you combat any objection right off with why it is wrong, let's look at what happens between two individuals. There are 2 types of tension that exist between 2 people at all times: relationship tension, the energy between them, and task tension, the impetus to get something done. If you respond to an objection with justification, facts, logic, and try to win the argument, you have effectively just raised the relationship tension and decreased the task tension. This kills productivity and reduces your chance of getting anywhere with this customer. Consider objections a test. Instead of reacting this way, let's look at our process and see how different the outcome can be. When you hear an objection, first, do not react. This may sound crazy, but is intended to provoke you. Don't let it. This is where you can win the game. The purpose of not reacting, which could take 10 seconds up to a minute, can look differently. You may just nod and say, "I hear you," or "Oh, really?" You're acknowledging what they've said without agreeing. You may say, "That's not the first time I've heard that." Another nonverbal response is to take notes, or simply look right at the person, listen and nod, to show that you are thinking and listening. Most importantly, keep your response to yourself. Try to imagine what the emotional base of the objection could be, and then move to step 2. Step 2 is seeking to understand. Ask questions to clarify their meaning. This could flush out other objections too, but at the very least, you need to find out why they think that way. Here are some good examples, depending on the objection, of course. Can you explain where that thinking comes from? Would you help me understand what your basis for that is? What were your expectations in that campaign? What does a good result look like for you? Or could you define XYZ for you, whatever your customer is talking about? These types of questions allow you to understand if they need more information or if they're just afraid, hoping you will go away and not cost them any money. Listen carefully and always ask if there is anything else. If there is, be sure you ask all about that too. When you think you have all of the objections and you understand why, it is time for step 3. Step 3 is to restate and confirm. What I mean by that is paraphrase the objection based on what you understand, without changing the meaning or agreeing. Put the objection into your own words. For example, if the objection is, "TV is too expensive," and you asked where that came from, and the customer said their friend was spending $10,000 a month, and you can't afford that, a restatement or paraphrasing of that might sound like, "If I understand you correctly, you are concerned about the cost of television." Another example may be, "So would it be correct to say that you need to be sure of the results before trying anything new?" Or, "If I hear you correctly, you are concerned about servicing any customers on the web?" The ideal way to restate the objection in a way that you can empathize with their fear, frustration, anger, or any other emotion it may encompass gives you a launch pad to ensure that you will allay their concerns. If you have done this well, you will have just inverted the tension ratio and opened the door for you to offer new information or ideas that conquer that objection. Then the tension is low and their ears are open. Then you're ready to go to step 4, the final step in the handling objection process. It's to reframe. You want your customer to shift their perspective or their frame of mind. The most effective way to do this after you have patiently listened to their objection understood it, and restated it is with a question. Craft this question carefully. It could make all of the difference in your sale. Your question may start with any one of these phrases. What if? Why or why not? Have you considered? Could you? Remember, your point is to get them thinking about the outcome, their interests. This question is not about you, it is about the big picture results. I'll give you an example. If you hear the objection, TV is too expensive, or radio or internet, a reframe might sound like, have you considered all the business you're missing by not advertising in TV or radio? Another example is, have you considered that the amount of business that you would generate would more than compensate for the ad expenditure in TV or radio? It would not be. Have you considered advertising with us? Or have you considered my great package? When handling objections, the focus is on the customer, their concerns, their interests, and the outcome. If you have properly handled the objection or objections, now you can start selling. You can now share that information that you wanted to right off the bat. Yes, your features and benefits. Warning, if you get here too soon, your customer will check out. For more specific examples of how these 4 steps may sound for some of the most common objections in media, go to the training tips for handling objections.